everybody, and welcome to the next episode of the Wayward Lasses podcast. I'm Brittany, joined today by my sister Courtney.
Hello, sister.
Hello, sister. Our mother Amy.
Hello, daughters.
Hello. And our very special guest for this evening, Cecelia Livingston.
Hello.
Oh, she did it too.
She did it. Hello.
How can you not? You've got to join the crowd.
So before we hop into Cecelia and her story and her business, we, of course, are going to start with some trivia. And Courtney, I believe you have that.
I do have trivia today. So what we're going to do is some 90s music, finish the lyric. I think these are pretty popular songs, so I think you guys will do well, but we'll see. All right, so I'm going to give you the line and you're going to try to finish. Are we ready? All right.
Ready?
All right. I get knocked down, but I get up again.
And I get up again. Oh, darn.
You're never going to keep me down.
There you go.
Bonus points if you know who sings it and the name of the song.
Something.
Chumbawamba.
I actually think
And?
they're from Britain.
Tub something.
Tub
The
something.
weirdest name.
Weird. The whole, all of it. All of
You know,
it.
we used
Great song, though.
we used to jam out to that song as kids, and then I got older and listened to the lyrics, and they're really inappropriate for children to sing. It's great though.
You find
Is
that more
it?
and more as
She
you
says
get
on
older
it-
and have children.
Yes.
I used to think
Yes.
she said kissing the night away. She does not. She says pissing the night away. And we're in the car
That-
like, dun, 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 dun. Like 10. It's great. All right, next song.
Oops,
All right,
that
I have to try not to sing this. Okay. As I walk through
Got it.
through the valley of the shadow of death, I take a
I'll
look.
take a look at my life and realize there's nothing left. Because I've been passing it back for so long that even my mama thinks that my mind is gone.
She's still going.
Coolio.
Yes.
Very nice.
I think
Thanks for sharing.
away last year, guys. I feel like he passed away,
Yeah,
right?
I feel you. I think we did this.
Uh-uh.
Brittany,
Yeah, I
Brittany
think he
cheated.
did.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Oh,
that's
wait.
like,
Oh,
What?
sorry. I'm on a different conversation.
oh, what?
Sorry, I just started typing.
I
Ah,
think he did. Yeah.
yeah. September 28th, 2022.
Wow.
Cardiac
Oh.
arrest.
Crazy.
Oh, wow.
He was pretty young, too.
Yeah, he was.
58.
Mhm. All right, this one's super easy, but I just had to throw it in there because it's a 90s classic.
Brittany, give everybody else a chance.
Yeah, Brett.
Sorry. I'll just do this when I know it and let you guys go.
Strumming my pain with his fingers.
With his fingers.
There you go.
Singing my life with his words.
See, you gotta
Sing
sing
it.
Right?
You gotta sing it.
Give me some.
Softly with his song. Killing me
That's
softly.
it.
Yes.
I love it.
Lauren Hill.
Actually, yes,
That
it
was
is
it.
Lauren,
It's
but
a
it's
remake.
the Fugees. Yeah.
Aretha Franklin.
The Fugees.
Roberta
Are-
Flack.
Roberta Flack. Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Roberta Flack in the
Sorry.
70s. All right.
Yes.
This one you guys are all going to get. Again, I'm just throwing it in there for the fun. I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world.
Barbie world.
Life in,
Plastic.
yeah.
It's fantastic.
You can brush my hair. I'm just me anyway. Come on, Bobby. Let's go, Bobby.
Who sings it, Britt?
Aquaman.
No, man.
No, Aqua.
There's no.
Aqua.
He said Momoa.
Aquaman. Jason Momoa sings it.
I was going to say.
He does
it's Jason
not
Momoa.
sing it. Oh, that would be interesting.
Aqua. I don't know why it just rolled off the tongue.
Aquaman. All right, one more. One more. All right. All that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars blank. You got it, Cecelia. I see you.
I do.
Yes, it's there. Grab it. Do
Oh my goodness.
you want me to sing it?
Start it.
And all that glitters is
shooting
gold.
stars.
Only shooting stars.
Stars break the mold.
She got
Yay! It's a cool place when this day gets
You
old.
bundled up.
Bundled
Now
up,
wait
now
till you
wait
get
till
older.
Have you
get
seen
older.
Rat Race?
No.
The movie
No.
Rat Race? watch the movie Rat Race. It's funny. It's got Mr. Bean in it if you can handle him, but it's got Cuba Gooding Jr. and that song plays a big role in that
Huh.
movie, and
Really?
it's so fun.
Rat Race.
Yes,
Great
Write that
song.
down.
Rat Race,
Well,
family
Smash
friendly.
Mouth.
Smash
All
Mouth
Yes.
All Star. Yep. All right.
That was good.
That's it.
I could do that all night. Like literally could just do that all night.
I know. It's fun.
Yeah.
But let's hop into the episode. We are interviewing Cecelia tonight, and she is the owner of Cecelia Livingston Coaching. Before we dive into that in your coaching business, could you give us a brief introduction as to who you are?
Sure. I live in South Carolina. I am a Wisconsin transplant, very upper Midwestern in all that I am and do. I check the weather every morning, compare it to back home. That's the kind of person that I am. And I go, oh, it's 30 below up there. Oh, it's 100 degrees warmer here. Shucks. But I am a wife, a mom of 5 kids. 2 of them are still at home, 2 teenagers, and I love my Basset Hounds and Old English Bulldogs. I am the 4th of 5 girls. So yeah, that's me. I am a diehard introvert. COVID has reinforced that 100%. So Netflix and chill is totally my jam, and sending memes to my best friend over Instagram while she's sitting at home watching Netflix, that's my perfect evening.
I
So
love that. What's crazy is my husband's mom and brother and sister live in Wisconsin, and there's like 9 inches of snow,
yes,
and it's like negative degrees there. I'm just like, that sounds awful.
but we stay for so long. It was, and the concept of leaving, we think we want to, but can we really? So I'm really glad that we just bit the bullet and moved our family south. So
Well, welcome to the South.
thank you.
We're all transplants too. We're all from New York, so
Yeah, you know how it goes.
Mhm.
the weather down here is much better.
Frightful.
Although it's pretty, I feel like it's
Definitely.
indecisive though. Like I never know what season it
Yes.
is. I have to dress for all seasons every day.
Yes.
Layers.
Literally because they're in North Carolina, and I used to be in North Carolina. In North Carolina, you can experience every season in one day for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Definitely.
Interesting. That's funny.
Okay, go ahead, Court.
No, I was just going to jump right in, and I wanted to ask you if you could, we're talking about corporate burnout, and I actually didn't really know what corporate burnout is. I myself I'm from a small business. I just recently transferred to a corporate setting, but spent most of my career in a small family owned business. And so when I saw corporate burnout, I have an idea of what that means, but not really. So could you maybe talk about like what is corporate burnout? What are some of the signs?
Sure,
of that?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I
how
want
it
to
affected
preface,
you too. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to preface that, when we think about burnout, we do think about it in the corporate setting, high powered or in corporate America, but it can really happen anywhere. And it can happen for stay-at-home moms. It can happen for entrepreneurs. And burnout, as I like to describe it, is really just the overwhelm, the sheer overwhelm. It's chronic stress. We all have stress levels that we experience when it comes to specific deadlines or new projects that kind of get us all ramped up. But when it comes to burnout, it's there. It is a constant companion. It interrupts your sleep. It makes you anxious. It makes you depressed. And then it just decides to make you not care and say, you know what? I'm not engaged anymore. I just need to step back as a coping mechanism. So my story with burnout, I worked for a Fortune 10 company for over 20 years. It was a great opportunity and still is. I still work there. But I hit a point where I knew I needed to do something different. there had to be an exit ramp from this crazy life. As I continued, up the corporate ladder, even though it wasn't one I was intentionally climbing, it got harder and harder to stay excited about my job. I would get a new role and say, yay, this is great, whether it's a promotion or a new challenge or working for a great boss. And yet I still felt this tug on my soul, this drain that it's time for something new. But I ignored it. I just kept going because that's what we're supposed to do, right? We have a family. We've got responsibilities. There's things that we have to do. And exiting just isn't an option, or we don't think it is. And so I continued chugging along. If I just can make it till Friday, I'll be okay. If I can just make it till June, I've got a week off. And all of those stories that I would try to tell myself didn't ever come true, because Friday would come or the vacation would come and I was miserable for the time off because I knew I was going back. And it was not where I wanted to be. It no longer aligned with who I was. And so I actually took 5 months off of work. I was out and not on vacation. It was short-term disability to deal with burnout because I just could not do it anymore. And when I say I couldn't do it anymore, it wasn't just work. It had impacted my ability to operate as a mom, as a wife, as a friend. I was totally exhausted. When you see in the news that a musician or an actor or whoever it is, they were suffering from exhaustion. That's a nice friendly way of saying they had a burnout meltdown.
Wow.
Where they just couldn't do it anymore. And so that's what it is. It is emotional and physical exhaustion. And so yeah, that's the pretty picture of burnout and what it is. And a little bit of my story of experiencing it, which really turned into why I started coaching.
Right. Wow. That's so interesting. So it really can affect like anyone, anywhere. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a corporate setting. So, wow.
Absolutely can. And one of the areas that I see it in as well is for women who are caretakers. So it might just be a regular family setting. It may be a situation where you have children with special needs and the extra stresses that come with that. It may be cases of acute sickness, whether it's themselves, their kids, their parents, their spouses. So all of these stresses that we find ourselves encountering and meeting the challenge, they tell us that we can do anything and we can do it all and we can, but there's a cost, right? And so it's that cost that is starting to catch up with so many of us.
Right. That really resonates with me because I think that's what happened to me as a teacher burnout, and it's happening everywhere. And I feel like there's other factors too, when it comes to just not even be able to support your own family or not having the time or things constantly getting added to you. But, you can do it. You can do anything. You're a teacher. You've got this. And then you've got, depending on how many students, 90 to 120 little ones that you care about on an educational level, on a personal level. And a lot of times you're their mom because they don't have a mother figure. You're their psychologist because they've got issues. They don't feel don't feel comfortable talking with anybody else. And it's so much and it builds and it builds. And you just burn out. And that's exactly what happened to me. And that's why I left. Can't do it anymore.
Absolutely. Our educators, our healthcare professionals, oh my goodness, the last 3 years have been nightmares where they have been forced into situations because of the pandemic that they were never trained or supported enough to successfully weather. And so whether it's teachers or nurses and doctors or anybody in the realms of education and healthcare, that's where the highest number of burnout are happening today. And they continue because those that weathered it are realizing that it's not over
Right.
now that everything is back to normal.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And I know for me, like as a mom, you touched on it a little bit, but I have 3 kids and I work and I
Mhm.
also am, I stay-at-home mom. I work remotely. And I think that
Yes.
as women, especially, there's this expectation that we have to take it all on. And I never wanted to ask for help because I thought that showed that I was a bad mom. Like I shouldn't need
Yeah.
help. I've seen moms with 5 kids, with 8 kids, and they've got a farm and they've got all these
Mhm.
things. And we always fall into that comparison trap on social media where we're looking at their
Yes.
beautiful highlight reel and their life seems so perfect. I should be able to do this. And there's unrealistic
Mhm.
expectations we put on ourselves. We don't put up healthy boundaries. And it ends up being like a lot. I know I've caught myself a couple times just getting numb. I just don't let
Yes.
myself feel anything. I just go through the monotonous
Yes.
day to day. And, I deserve better than that. My husband deserves better than that. My kids deserve better than that. So this is definitely, it resonates with me too. Definitely something that needs to be talked about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Social media does not do us any
Yeah.
favors when it comes to burnout. And rather than bringing us together, it makes us feel isolated
Yeah.
because all the shouldas, we should ourselves to death on what we should be able to do. Suck it up, buttercup. This is what women have fought for. All those things that we think about and go through our minds from external sources. But then we have to also fight our internal triggers and
Right.
the things that, those limiting beliefs that we've set up for ourselves about what our capabilities are. So it might be I can't say no. I have to do everything. I have to make a home cooked meal every night. I cannot allow my children to have cereal tonight. Really?
Yeah.
Is anybody going to die
Right.
if you have cereal tonight because you just need to have a quiet evening? Nobody's going to die. That was my motto for a while. They're not going to die. Everybody's happy. I don't have a mom report card that I need to ace. Nobody's grading me but me.
Right.
And so starting to give ourselves that grace and have that realization is key.
Right.
Because all of the great benefits that we've received from working at home for many of us through the pandemic, there's a two-edged sword to that.
Yeah.
Because then we're always home. And that for some of us is a great thing. But for some of us, we start saying, oh, I can do all these other things and work and take care of my kids who are also here and help my in-laws who also need my help. We start taking on more things, and then there is never any separation of duties, and there's no space in there for us.
Yeah.
None whatsoever. So it's really become a slippery slope.
Definitely. So walk us through it. You took your time off, and then what did you do? What was your response to this? You started coaching. Walk us through that.
Yeah. So taking the time off was very difficult. I've worked full time through my babies. I took my maternity leave and I was back at work because I had to. We had babies to feed. I had responsibilities. And so spending time quietly without doing all of the things was very uncomfortable. So that was the first thing I had to do, was start getting comfortable with me and the silence and creating the silence in my head. Because you have like a million things going on in your head right now. You probably do, you probably have got your to-do list about, okay, I got the kids in bed, I got to prep for school tomorrow, I have this, that to do. We have an endless list that is always going. And so for me, it was being able to sit quietly on my back porch without my phone and do nothing. And I would sit and cry because it was so uncomfortable. It was not me. I needed to be productive. So that was the biggest transformation for me, was being okay with that silence and solitude and then beginning to use it as a tool to really hear myself and what I needed and what I wanted. And so as I went through my leave, it was work. When I look at it, it was the weirdest, hardest work that I have done in a very long time because it was focused on me and no one else for a change. And I still look back at it and I still have the tendency to say, I could have used that time a whole lot better. I could have finished this project and we should have traveled and, I should have taken courses and I had all these crazy things that I should have done. But I know the best use of my time was just being for a change and not doing. So as I was being, as you mentioned, it was isolating, right? Because you see people who are doing it all the things, they can keep it together.
She said all the things.
All the things. Let's do all the things. And is that a drinking game? Do I need to have a drink or something?
It's just the name of our podcast.
Yes. I think you should also make it some kind of a drinking game when somebody just throws it in there.
I love that.
So I where was I? So it was isolating, and I felt like nobody else really understood where I was at. But the longer I sat there, I'm like, no, I know there's a lot more women who are sitting where I'm at, but nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to admit and be vulnerable enough to say, I need help. Because that's what got me there to begin with, was not saying anything and just sucking it up and doing the stuff. So I created a Facebook group. What else do you do this century? When you need a community, you create a community, right? And so I started talking to all these women. We would have virtual coffees. I'd do Facebook Lives. I did my first ever Facebook Live doing that. And I'd get on the phone and talk with them one-on-one about what was going on. And I realized I needed more tools in my tool belt to help them because I could relate to them. I could tell them that they weren't alone, which was my biggest message and continues to be. But I didn't have a whole lot beyond that. So I did take a weekend coaching class. And from that moment, I was hooked. It checked all the boxes for me on things that filled my soul, which was helping other people, using my story and my lessons learned so somebody else didn't have to sink to the depths of a burnout meltdown. It encouraged me to speak out more and to share my story more. And so, when it came to coaching, so I'm going to show my upper Midwestern here. So when somebody says the phrase life coach, I'm like, oh, you mean Heather from California who burns sage and is all woohoo? Yeah, I don't do life coach. That was my thing. But I loved the work. And so I loved doing it and exploring the different paths to help people hear themselves, because that's really what coaching is. It's not me offering a solution. It's providing a safe place for you to figure out what's going on in your heart. Yes, in your heart, in your head. And exploring that with you. And so once I wrapped my, icy little Wisconsin brain around that, then I'm like, this is what I want to do. And this is what I'm going to do. So I just continued my learning, and I'm continuing my learning about coaching. That's the wonderful thing, especially in continuing to work with professional women who are dealing with burnout. There's always new avenues to explore. There's always new expressions of people's desires and needs that light me up. I'm still on my journey.
Yeah.
I'm not finished with my journey. So I'm continuing to learn for myself and to help whoever I can who needs a hand up. And so that is how my big old meltdown led to the biggest career shift that I could have imagined. Yes.
Yeah. I love that though. Like just the forming of community. A lot of times that's what you need, to know, you said it, to know that you're not alone, because it is a lonely place. And in this day and age with so much social media and everybody interacting even on Zoom or Zencaster or whatever, you think that, oh, well, technology just lets us see each other all the time. But in a way, it's also isolating because you're missing that connection with people. So I love that. I think that's so important. That's a great, even just life tool, life tip for people. Just always find yourself in community, especially with like-minded people who you can relate to, who share that same testimony, that same, life experience. It's probably very healing,
It is. It's huge. And that helped me during my own recovery to a place where I could re-enter the workforce, because I knew that there were even more women out there.
Yeah.
There were women that I was working with in the corporate setting that I knew were burned out but didn't want to talk about it. And so it allowed me opportunity to find ways to speak openly about it within my corporate environment and to have those hard conversations with people to start making it a acceptable and necessary conversation to have. And so that's one thing upon my reentry. So not only being able to do when I first started out coaching as a side gig, but being able to bring my experience back to my very massive corporate organization. So even in my little corner of that world, to start having those conversations and making sure that those in my circle and of my circle of influence were able to say, I need help, or make it acceptable to say, I'm taking a mental health day.
Right. Yeah.
That to me is one of the greatest gifts that I can give my team, is rather than saying, hey, I'm taking the day off, I will send them an email and say, hey guys, I'm taking a mental health day today. It's okay. And so they are speaking up more easily to say, you know what, I'm really stressed. And then we find solutions. And if they need to take a day off, if they need to take a week off, go take care of you. That's more important than the next deadline.
Yeah, I love that.
So Cecelia, I'm curious. I have been in the corporate world for, I don't even know how many years now, but for many, many years. Curious as to, does your employer offer tools for the employees in terms of, recognizing that you're having an issue where you need to take time off? Or do they have mental health days? Like, I know my company, every quarter, they want you to take a day off for mental health day, right? So they do things within the organization to ensure that you're not alone, especially given the fact that during COVID, we feel so isolated, right? So they've formed many Slack channels that people can talk to about puppies, about dad jokes, about Asians, about, DEIB, anything under the sun, that the ability to talk about it is there. So number one, does your company offer something like that? And if they don't, do you think that if they did, it would maybe ease the burden or make it a lot easier for people to talk about? It's not a taboo topic. It's, hey, we all go through this. Let's talk about it and support one another.
Yeah. So yes, my company does. There are some channels to have those conversations, but definitely not enough, right? So in that space, we do have generous PTO. So basically, whether it's 6-day, vacation day, mental health day, it all goes in one big bucket, and you use it how you choose to use it, which works well for me. I know others are concerned about not having your sick days versus your vacation days and that whole construct. But I think more so than the corporate line. And yep, we've got like our internal Facebook where people can go out, and we have channels for, funny jokes, and we have channels for puppies and new baby pictures. Grandmas and grandpas love some of those sites, and they're able to post their pictures of their new grandkids, which is great, right? It reminds us that we're all human, and that this job is not our life. That this job should be supporting our life. But it really comes down to your direct manager, right? If they do not view their team as people, as humans, as emotional, mental, physical beings who need empathy and support, then nothing that is done at a corporate level is worthwhile. So one of the things that I would really like to see, through my own experience in a single company for 20 plus years, is that you have very different management styles within it. So even though you may have managers who have been with the company for years and years and years, some are more culturally aware than others. We still have the old school managers who are top down, who are the deadlines. I don't care if you have to work at midnight or over the weekend. That's your problem. Get it done. And then you have those who have the sensibility to understand that life happens, and that we're not all machines, and that we need to have real human conversations. And so the more that leadership styles and leadership culture can be influenced, the better off any corporate or any small business or any sort of work environment. That's when it can flourish, and when burnout can really be managed, rather than at burnout just managing the day-to-day stress levels and the ebbs and flows of the business. But until, as corporate entities, we start focusing on leadership and management styles, unfortunately, all the bells and whistles and coaching programs and things that are offered to employees as part of our benefit packages, those things are useless if we don't have management that really supports it.
Yeah. Agree 100%. Yep. So true.
It is. I've even seen it. We have a family member who was talking about this recently, just saying, yeah, I was promoted and I'm in charge of all these people, but nobody gave me any training on, my job. Yes, I have a bottom line, but most of my job is managing people, and I don't know how to do that. Like he himself is an introvert, and he's like, I don't know what to do. And so he was just kind of flying by the seat of his pants, and ultimately was like, this isn't for me. And he, left his position. So you're so right. It starts with leadership, and we have to do better with training proper leaders and proper managers to care for people, more than just treating them more than they're just like a moving part in a machine. Because I feel like that's often how we're looked at. Like, you're replaceable. There's people out there who don't have a job. So if you don't do it, I'll get somebody else to do it. Exactly. And that's really poor management, as you said. So I agree with you 100%.
Absolutely. And I have a story about that. So my return to the corporate world, I was terrified of going back because I didn't know if I could handle it. And going back into the exact same situation that I'd come out of was not an option for me. So I had a previous boss who kept in touch, and she knew I was out. And so she texted me one day, said, hey, I know you're still out, but do you have time to chat? So she had a position that was opening up on her team, and she's like, I want you to take it. And I'm like, I don't think I'm ready. I literally still cry when I consider going back to work. I don't think that that's going to work all that well. And she's like, well, just talk to some of the other folks on the team and check it out and let me know what you think then. And so I did. And I knew that if I was going to go back, it was going to be the softest place for me to land. re-entering the company. And the reason I say that was she didn't hire me for my great financial acumen. It was a financially driven role with dollar targets and bottom lines, but she hired me to take care of her people. And that is why I went back. And that's why I took that role, because that's what I knew. I could take care of people, and I could take care of people better now than I could take care of them before burnout, because I let all of the things weigh me down, and the focus of that old leadership team, squash or attempt to squash whatever humanity that I had. But here I was being asked to show that first. And so I'm like, yeah, sign me up and be gentle with me. And that's why I work for the great leader that I work for.
I love that. That's a great story.
I wanted to. You had said something earlier that when you took those 5 months off, that you said it was difficult. It was hard work, and it wasn't just time off. You really worked on yourself, and I really love that you mentioned that, because we've talked before about changing mindsets and being able to accomplish goals, and what do you need to be able to do that. And it is hard work. If you're really needing to change something like that, working on yourself and figuring out what the root of the problem is and rerouting your brain to think about it differently, it is hard work. So my question is, if you don't mind sharing, what are some tools that women can add to their toolkit to overcome burnout like this?
Yeah, so great question. So I think a lot of us, we look for our do-it-yourself, give me the 5 steps to beating burnout. And those are great taglines and hooks for social media. And I probably have put some out there, but it's the work in each one of them that is critical, right? So finding that silence and solitude, that is my number one requirement for beating burnout. Even if it's just 5 minutes. I used to put myself in timeout. I would just call it timeout. I'm like, okay, I need to take a nap in the middle of the day. Getting back to basics for me was important. So I would put myself in a dark room, and I put a guided meditation or a progressive muscle relaxation. I'd listen to it, and I would lay flat in my bed for at least 5 minutes a day. And that just allowed me to start hearing things, hearing myself again. So that is a big one. 5 minutes a day for yourself and nothing else. No distractions, just you. The next item is really about our mindset and saying nothing changes if nothing changes. Tony Robbins says you need to participate in your own rescue. You can't just wait for things to change. You have to make them change. And that doesn't necessarily mean up and leaving your job. Now, if you can do that, I'm not going to tell you not to, but let's be real. Most of us feel as though we can't. That's the reason, that's what's causing a lot of the burnout, is that feeling of being trapped where we are because of our responsibilities. But it's changing how we perceive the world around us. How am I dealing with these stressors? It's, how do I view my job? Is it just a means to an end? Or is this something that I'm truly interested in, passionate about, that has just gotten really heavy for me right now? So really changing our perspective to nothing changes if nothing changes, and actively being interested and motivated to make changes. And then community. We've already talked about the importance of it. You have to have community. You need to know that you're not alone. And we can rationalize that. Yeah, I know I'm not alone. I know there's millions of people who are burned out. Everybody's burned out. But then we're back into minimizing our own feelings. So finding our tribe of women or certain professions, our teachers, our nurses, and saying, okay, ladies, how are you feeling today? What are your challenges today? Because guess what? Their challenges and their feelings are the same as yours. And so hearing it coming from somebody else feeds your soul to make that connection. And then my fourth item is get help. Get help. Burnout recovery is not a solo sport. So whether that's getting help from a medical professional, and seeing if there is something from a medication perspective, depression and anxiety are all wrapped up in burnout. And sometimes we need that pharmaceutical help. So if that is the case, do not reject it. If it's therapy, go to therapy, talk. We have so many traumas in our lives that we just stuff down and keep going, but we don't realize and don't want to recognize sometimes how much they impact our day-to-day lives. Or maybe it's a coach like me, who can help us look forward. So not necessarily looking back and processing everything that's happened, but how do we use these experiences and create our path forward to the lives that we want to live, whether it's a life of time freedom and I want to change my job and I want to be able to travel the world and live on a beach. Okay, how are you going to get there? Let's talk about that. Or if it's, I love my job. I want to be CEO one day, but I'm really burned out right now and I need to get a handle on this. That's what a coach does, is meets you wherever you're at and creates that safe space for you to process and make your plan, and then hold you accountable and help you meet it. You have a partner in your burnout recovery. So those are the things that I view as really important from my own experience and from the women I've worked with, as they have emerged from burnout as well.
I love that. That is wonderful advice. I'm taking notes over here. Yes, I love that.
Fabulous.
I love it. So just, kind of going off of that, one of our listeners is let's say listening to this and feels like this really applies to them, and they contact you, they want to be part of your coaching program. What would that look like for them?
Yep. So I love to start off just by having conversations. So a lot of times I'll just schedule a quick 15-minute conversation so we can meet each other on Zoom, or over the phone, so they know that there's a real person on this end, and get a quick snapshot of where they're at. And is this a good fit for me? For them, for me, for both of us. Sometimes they may have a very specific situation and I'm not the best coach. Right. I'm not the best person to help them. And so I'm going to refer them out to somebody else in my coaching network, or I'm going to say, you know what? I have some really great mental health resources in your community that I would love to refer you to if it's something that really needs to have that medical attention. I don't bite off more than I can chew. Right. So that 15 minutes for me is really just a quick, let's take each other's temperature to see if this is something we want to pursue. And if it sounds like it's a good fit, then I'm going to invite you back for another hour. And we're going to basically do another hour of free coaching, where we dig deeper to find out your situation, where you are now, where you want to be, what are your barriers of getting there. And then at the end of that, we'll talk about what I offer through my coaching programs. And then you'll have an opportunity to say, yes, let's get started. This fits. Or we'll talk about, if it's not a great fit, what you can do to make sure that you don't stay where you're at, because you've stayed where you're at for too long. You've sacrificed too much already. You've made yourself sick already in one way, shape, or form. It's costing you. And so the last thing that I want to do is to leave you there. Yeah. So we talk about ways for them to find some kind of path forward, but ultimately it's going to be up to them to take action.
Yeah.
I love that you walked us through that, because I think oftentimes people feel, even like when you go see your medical doctor, it's like, oh, I'm stuck with this person. But it really should be an opportunity for you to interview that person, or, vice versa, and see, like you said, if it really is a fit. So I love that you go through that process, and we're not just for lack of a better word, stuck with who I'm talking
Yeah,
to at this point, right? Because I think that's part
exactly.
of it too. I love the fact that you said you're partnering with somebody, because oftentimes what
Mhm.
we found, at least I found in my experience, is somebody's talking at me and not necessarily listening to what I'm feeling or what I want out of this relationship. And so often it doesn't work, and I leave that place feeling like, I'm in the same place when I first started.
I
What's
know.
what's the purpose, right? So I love that
Exactly.
you walked us through that, but just to tack on to that now, if somebody wanted to get into coaching, is a
Yeah.
two-part question. What advice would you give them, right? And then and on top of that, like some of the difficulties that you faced in terms of
Mhm.
setting up your business and even being a coach. Can
Yeah.
you talk to that and share that with talk about that and share that with our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So becoming a coach these days is super easy. I, it's too easy in some respects because, I first started my coaching journey. My first class was basically a weekend boot camp.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was just the beginning. It was, okay, I got a taste of this. Now it's time to go out and get more and to arm myself and put all, more tools in my toolbox. And it really started what I view as now as a lifelong learning opportunity. Um, but there may be some folks who are like, oh, I did a weekend coaching class. I'm ready to start coaching people. So I would say to take a look at the coaching programs out there. You can search them for hours ad nauseum.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's great that there's so many options to fit people's budgets, to fit people's timelines and
Mm.
circumstances, but don't get taken advantage of. Really do your research in your coaching programs prior to signing up to make sure that they're going to meet your goals. Because
Mm.
remember, this is about you at this point. Um, and if you want to turn around and help others, you need to make sure that you're prepared to do that. So it's really easy to get started in coaching, though. And it really just starts with that desire to help. Most coaches find that they've been coaches their entire lives, but just haven't been paid for it.
Huh.
Mm.
It's that
That's true.
um, it is.
Yeah.
It's, in my corporate job, I used to laugh that I had a virtual coach in my office because everybody would call me and I would talk them off of their cliffs while I was going through my own existential crisis, through burnout as well. So, um, so it is easy to become a coach. Um, but the challenge is making coaching sustainable from a business perspective.
Okay.
Um, that is a challenge. And so finding a methodology, finding your niche, finding something that you have a passion for that you're not going to give up tomorrow because it gets too hard, that to me has been my that's been my lifeline, is wanting to serve these women. I'm still on my journey, so why wouldn't I want to help everybody else who's on
Yeah.
theirs?
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's finding your passion through this, that's really going to help you hang on as you figure out the business stuff. Um, because like I had my own preconceived idea what a life coach was, so does everybody else that you meet, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so some of them think that's you're just going to charge them $10 for an hour and off you go. Well, that's not a viable business model. For you're running yourself ragged and burning out trying to help everybody, but you're not getting what you need to sustain your practice,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. So finding the right business model is critically important, and making sure that you find time to fill your cup up because you are continuing to give. It can be a very emotional space if you let it be a very emotional space. You can connect with people without it being emotionally taxing on you. But just like with any passion that you have, anything that you love doing, it still takes energy.
Mm.
And so you need to make sure that you're keeping your own energy up. before you turn on Zoom and meet with your next client, because they deserve to have all of you there and ready to go. And so for me, keeping my energy level high is my priority. And I'm happy to say, with where I am in my own journey, has been a lot easier than I thought it would. It was one of my first, kind of cautions that I had going on in my own mind, to make sure that I didn't burn out doing this work, helping others who were going through burnout as well. So yeah, I would say that's what I got there. Just my mind went blank. I'm like, where am I going with this?
That was it. I love that you mentioned the filling your cup. My old boss, my principal at the school I used to work at, always talked about filling your bucket. And every time that you help somebody, and that was always my problem. If someone needed help, I said, sure, yeah, I'll help out. I'll watch your class. I'll help you with this. I'll do that. I'll stay late. And every time I lend myself out, there's a hole or I'm taking a scoop of water out of my bucket, and I never had my bucket filled. So I love that you mentioned making sure that you're taking the time to fill your bucket, fill your cup. You can't love somebody else until you learn to love yourself. You can't take care of someone else until you're taking care of yourself. So I think that was really great advice that you gave. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
My question for you is, what are your goals for the year? You've got, an awesome business, Cecelia Livingston Coaching. You've got your own website. So what are your goals? Share that with us if you don't mind.
Sure. So I have a really, I'm going to say bodacious goal. It's not a word I use all the time, but I'll give it a whirl. I am going to leave the corporate world 100%. In 2023.
Nice.
So my coaching is my priority. And so and that's continuing to grow, and I am loving it. I just told my coach, because I've got multiple coaches as well. Coaches need coaches. Last week, I'm like, I'm feeling like a full-time coach, even though I'm not. So I'm very excited about that. And this year will be my last year in corporate America.
Wow.
So
That's
that is my
exciting.
goal. Yeah,
Good
I'm very happy.
Wow. Wasn't expecting that little twist. Love it though.
I hope you're not listening.
I know, right?
Bosses, yes.
Oh no.
If anybody is listening, they'd already know this about me. I'm not. I don't hold that one very close. I'm more than happy to tell it. Actually,
okay.
so
all right, we won't have to edit that part out. Is what you're saying? Okay,
no.
That's so funny. Oh well, Cecelia, we absolutely loved having you here tonight. I absolutely love your passion, your heart, and my favorite thing in talking to you is seeing how you've taken your life experiences and you've just so determined to use them to help others. I think that is a beautiful quality. It's a wonderful example to set. We should all be doing that. I don't think we ever go through anything in vain, and I think it's important for us to use our own struggles to help others. And I just love that that's where you're coming from. And so it's been such a pleasure having you. And before we go, could you maybe just let our listeners know how they can connect with you, your social media, your website, all that fun stuff?
Absolutely. You can find me on Facebook, Cecelia Livingston. You can also find my Facebook group, Freedom from Burnout, and would love to see you in there to share your own life experiences, to get a little encouragement, and to find some inspiration on those days when it's just hard to get moving. So
that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. We'll include that in the show notes for everybody in case you missed that.
Fabulous.
Brett, you want to close us out?
Yes, thank you guys so much for joining us this evening. We have had a blast. We hope you learned a lot from this. I know that I've learned a lot. I've been able to put some vocabulary to what I was feeling when I left my job. So if you are needing some help or some coaching or someone to talk to, I highly recommend you reach out to Cecelia. Thank you guys again for joining us. And until next time, we are the Wayward Lasses, reminding you to keep it real. Thanks for stopping by.
Good night, guys.
Stay classy.
Stay classy.